Today's our burning bowl ceremony. And I want to start with an affirmation of sorts. This is a quote from Reverend Eric Butterworth. He's one of my favorite Unity ministers. I didn't get an opportunity to go to his community when I lived in New York City because I had not yet heard of Unity. But I'm so happy to be reading his books now. Diligently practice identifying yourself as a limitless expression of an unlimited universe. Wow, that's a big statement. Will you say it with me? Diligently practice identifying yourself as a limitless expression of an unlimited universe. This is how we come in, folks. This is us. This is the truth of us. We are unlimited. We are an expression of the infinite. So the only way that we can not allow that through is how we have learned to block it. And one of the ways we've learned to block it is we began to take on beliefs at whatever time that started, whether they were beliefs from collective consciousness or beliefs that you grew up with in your family. Those beliefs limit us. Think about it. People will talk about when you're aging, certain things must happen. That's a belief system. There's a commercial on the radio that says you get 3 colds every winter. That's a belief system. And when we take it on and we hold it in our minds for long enough, guess what's going to happen? We're going to get a cold. We're probably going to get 3 if we believe them. But we all have certain kinds of limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. There's not enough. Something's wrong with me. Do you guys recognize any of these? I can say there are times in my life and some moments in my life still that I hold on to them. And sometimes we hang on to our our limited beliefs as tightly as we can so we don't have to let them go. But the beauty of today in the burning bowl is we have an opportunity to let go of anything that comes between our sense of oneness with God, our sense of oneness with each other in our life. So we have opportunities to write it down and symbolically drop it into the flame. Fire is often purification. And just let it go. What a beautiful opportunity. For so many times our limiting beliefs actually started but before we were consciously aware enough to say, let me examine this belief. Do I want this belief? No, I think I'll sit it back down over here. No thank you to whoever offered it to us. We just set it down, walk away from it, and we don't have to take it on. But oftentimes somebody offers us something and in our politeness we take hold of it. And then what do we do with it? Sometimes we don't know to just simply let it go. Other times we stick it in our pocket and carry it around with us, and it's going to manifest in our life in some ways. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great learning opportunity. And then the beauty is all these things that we've learned, we can unlearn. We can examine, we can look at, we can decide, does this work for me? And there's some things that worked for me when I was younger that no longer work for me. And the burning bowl gives me a beautiful opportunity to let those things go. To simply let go. And then we can go back and say, oh, is it still there? Should I pick it back up? But we could just let it go and let it be. We've all felt lost in our life. And that's challenging at times. Many of us have had a sense of betrayal, and that can be very hurtful and can be very challenging also. Many of us have heard things about ourselves that really are not true that we've taken in. And what are we going to do about them? Because each thing that we've taken in that's not the truth of us, each thing that we've taken in that limits us, that takes that infinite that's wanting and desiring to express through us and allowed it to contract us, is a limiting belief. But the beautiful thing is in every single moment we can choose something different. We don't always know how, but one of the things we'll do in here today is talk a little bit about one way, and there are multitudes of ways. But when we are open to finding our way, then we can make a change. We can choose something different. And the beautiful thing is we can choose something different in every moment. We don't get to choose just once. We get to choose infinite amount of times because we are limitless. There's a character in the Hebrew Scriptures, his name is David. Some of you know him because he fought the giant, David and Goliath. Well, when David was a mature man, he was having trouble sleeping one night. And so he goes up on the top of his building, possibly to get some air. And he's looking around this night, and he spies or he sees this woman. She's incredibly beautiful. Her name is Bathsheba. And he falls in a sense of feeling that he must have her. And so he sends for her, and he has an affair with her. And her husband, his name is Uriah, and you can find this story in 2 Samuel, the 11th chapter, is one of his soldiers. And so David, who has fallen for Bathsheba, has decided that he's going to set it up so that Uriah gets killed on the battlefield, which he does. And he's trying to make it look like he didn't have any part of it. So there's deception going on here. And when somebody called him out, as these things often will happen, somebody calls out David, and he feels regret and remorse. And so he wrote what we know as the 51st Psalm. And within the 51st Psalm is this phrase, "Create in me a clean heart, O God. Restore within me a sense of being brand new." Create in me a clean heart, O God. Restore within me a sense of being brand new. Heart metaphysically is love. It's love. It's something that we are called to be. So the moment that David called out and said, "Create in me a clean heart," that love was present for him in a way that he could receive it. It was always there for him. But it was there for him in a way that he could receive it because he opened himself up to it. Create in me a clean heart. Create in me new love. Let me love anew, in a new way. Even though he had done some things that were hurtful to another, hurtful to himself in some ways, in a moment, he chose again. And his way of choosing was, "Create in me a clean heart, oh God." Now, metaphysically, the heart is also the visible center of an invisible expression of consciousness. The heart is a visible center. We know where our hearts are. We know where the heart chakra is. But when we allow Spirit, God, the divine, whatever it is, to pour through that heart, then we can allow substance, divine substance and energy to pour through our hearts. And we often do this when we send love to somebody. It comes through our heart. And the moment it starts to come through our heart, that heart center expands and opens in consciousness. Because love is one of the highest consciousness on the planet, in the universe. And so somebody that we're struggling with, we can come home to our hearts and send love. When we're struggling with ourselves, we can come home to our hearts and give love to ourselves. The scriptures also teach us that we cannot be in the light and hold anyone else in darkness. So the moment we choose criticism for somebody or ourselves, the moment we choose blame for somebody else or for ourselves, we're thinking with this mind, our brain intelligence, which is a powerful mind. But we've stepped out of the light into the darkness, a lower frequency. So we've come from a frequency of love, because love truly is a frequency, and we've stepped into what I would call my personality self, our personality self. Some people think of it as the little s self. You might have been taught that there's a little s self, and the big S self, which would be our divinity. However it works for you. Most of us do this dance all the time, and there's nothing wrong with doing the dance. But the awareness that I'm in the light, and the awareness that I've stepped into a lower frequency, is a powerful way to begin to make those choices in life that bring us back into knowing that we're a testimony to love. That with every breath we take, we can simply be love. When someone else is hurting, we can be love. When somebody else is doing something we don't really think is right, they might be on their spiritual path. And the moment we judge that, we move into the darkness. We lower our frequency and we step out of love. But the beauty is, we simply step back over here. Create in me a clean heart, oh God. Make me brand new. We can be brand new in every moment. That is the gift of life. That is the gift of love that we have. Charles Fillmore talked about this same concept. He talked about it like this. Tell me what kind of thoughts you are holding about yourself, about your neighbors, and I can tell you just what you may expect in the way of health, finances, and harmony in your home. You cannot love and trust in God if you hate and distrust men. That's a strong statement, but we can simply change that a little bit. You cannot love, you cannot be in the frequency of love and judge another person. We cannot, and I say we because it's true of me too, be in the frequency of love and be blaming somebody. What I can do is I can make a choice in any moment to step back over here into the frequency of love. It's not always easy, folks. No, it's not always easy. And sometimes it takes a lot of practice. Practicing meditation, practicing affirmation, choosing to let my personality not be in control. And when I'm feeling stress, it's easy to be contracted. And it's easier to think with my brain that's in my head than the brain or the divine intelligence that's in my heart. Neurocardiology has discovered that we have 40,000 what they're called sensory neurites, or sensory neurons is what we're talking about, that are in our heart. 40,000 of them. And when we are truly in coherence, which would be another way to say when we're truly centered, when we're centered in love, then our brains, our intellectual brains and our heart brains are working together. They're in coherence. But when we're feeling stressed or out of balance, then they're not working together. And what happens is we struggle with healing sometimes. We struggle with our finances. We struggle with harmony sometimes. And the moment we're in that struggle, if we know that we're simply out of coherence, then we can do things that put us back in. The choice is ours, and the gift of that ability to do so is ours. And I want to walk you through this. I'm going to ask you to do something that might actually feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to ask you to either place your hand on your heart or a few fingers on your heart. You can even do the prayer. This is part of why people pray, is with this posture, is because we're touching our hearts. And I'm going to invite you to become aware of the sensation that you're feeling as you touch your hearts. See if you can notice what it feels like for you to touch your own heart. And I'm going to invite you to slow your breathing down. When we slow our breathing down, then we can move out of that fight-flight syndrome of our sympathetic nervous system. When we slow our breathing down, we're reminding of our bodies that we're truly safe. So when we can bring our breathing to the place where we're breathing in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds, that's all it truly takes. Slowing that breathing down, increasing our awareness, and in our heart, which is that center of this invisible consciousness. We call it God, we call it divine. In our heart, there it is. And when we can bring our awareness to that, and then bring our intellectualness into it, I am safe. Say it a few times with me. I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. We're actually engaging those 40,000 cells in our body. And as we engage those 40,000 cells of our heart, those sensory neurons, as we engage them, we actually allow our intuition to expand and come through us. When we're in our heart, there is no judgment. Just like in God, there is no judgment. And the moment we say, create in me a clean heart, O God, there's no judgment. There is no judgment. It is done in that second that we do it. And then I'm going to invite you to think of a feeling, a caring, an appreciation, a gratitude. Think of something that you feel compassionate about. To add that feeling piece. Create in me a clean heart, O God. Make me brand new. This is a practice. This is a practice that allows us to come back into the light in any moment that we've noticed that we've simply stepped away into our personality. This is a practice that allows us to come back into our divinity in any moment when we notice that we've simply stepped out of that divinity and chosen to focus with our head brain and chosen to focus as personality. And we know that where we put our attention is where energy goes. So as we hold this moment of our heart space, I invite you to think of somebody or something, and it may be yourself, that is challenging to you, that's difficult for you. And from this energy, be a testimony of love. Love that part of you that's having the challenge. And love that part of you that's experiencing someone else or something else as a challenge. Let that divine energy or substance flow in, through, and as you in your heart center. The other beautiful thing about our heart center is when we find that point of coherence between our brain and our heart brain, that we release 1,300 biochemical cascades of different neurotransmitters and peptides and the chemistry of our heart that allow us to be in healing. We release those chemicals in our bodies that allow us to not age very quickly. We release those chemicals that allow us to let go and release the past, because it is our brain and our head that hangs on to the past. And when we're in our heart, we're in this holy moment. And this is a practice that teaches us how to live as only one presence and one power, active in the universe, active in our lives, active in this spiritual community, active in the world. Something to celebrate. And like anything, as we practice, it becomes easier and easier. So there comes a time where you don't even necessarily have to put your hand on your heart, because it becomes natural. It becomes as familiar as those limiting beliefs have become to us, so that we can live in the infiniteness that we were created as, so that we can live in unlimited potentiality, so that we can know in every moment we are free to make a choice, even when the choice is to feel our feelings all the way through, whatever they are, in a way that allows them to continue to move through us. We can make a choice to be present with one another. We can make a choice to stop judging and criticizing. We can make a choice to love ourselves first and each other in spiritual community fully and deeply. And if you're interested in this choice, I'm going to invite you to say these affirmations with me. The first one is, I experience myself as a limitless expression of the divine. Let's say that one together. I experience myself as a limitless expression of the divine. And let that just sink in for a moment. We've had a lot of time of feeling limited. We're taking a new step to feel unlimited. We're laying down new energetic tracks to live the truth of ourselves, which is unlimited. And I engage in a regular practice of heart-brain coherence. That's what we just did. And there are many ways to do it, and you'll find your way when you're ready to live that way. But let's say this together. I engage in a regular practice of heart-brain coherence. What a joy. This is what, to me, brings the joy of life. It's not always easy, and there's times I resist it, I have to be honest with you. It's hard to get my bottom in the chair to do the meditation. Sometimes it's hard for me when I'm really upset and angry to get myself to come home to my heart and do the simple breathing and the simple affirming that I am safe. And when I do, which is beginning to be more often than not, it makes a difference in my life. And I can live as that testimony to love that I want to be. Now we've, in your bulletin, added for today a piece of paper to write on so that you can put on this piece of paper any obstacle that you perceive to be between you and a state of heaven. Whatever your version of heaven is. For Jesus said to us, it is the Father, or it is God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. It's available to us right now. All we have to do is remove the blocks, remove the obstacles, and choose to live in love and light at all times. Write it down. We're going to put it into the fire after meditation in the burning bowl ceremony. This is a powerful ritual to give us an ability to let go and to live in our heart centers. Mindy's going to come and we're going to do meditation.